Super Random Dragon.
So, I've finished playing the new Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii game, and as a diehard RGG Studio and Yakuza, aka Ryuga Gotoku game fan, I'm ready to give my opinions. Overall, it's superb. Even after spending months getting every award and achievement in Infinite Wealth, I still didn't find myself burnt out by playing yet another game in Hawaii. In fact, this is the first game in the franchise where you don't play at all in Japan, not including the post-apocalyptic world of Fist of the North Star, which feels like sacrilege for the series. Still, like most games of the series, you can't go wrong buying the game. Dare I say I may have enjoyed this game more than Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth? Well, yes and no. Let me explain. Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth is one of the best games of the past few years and one of the best JRPGs ever, perhaps. However, if you watch my review of that game, you'll know that I found many aspects lacking from its predecessor, Like a Dragon, also known as Ryuga Gotoku 7 in Japan. While Infinite Wealth was the biggest and most ambitious game of the franchise, with the most to offer, I felt it lacked the story depth and overall character of the Like a Dragon origin story, and the passing of the torch from protagonist Kazuma Kiryu to Kasuga Ichiban, and his rise from rags to riches. Plus, a bit too much of the game took place grinding through dungeons, which is one aspect that makes this game seem more easygoing. If you're not a fan of JRPGs, Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii is especially refreshing, going back to a more traditional action game, and especially since we are going to have to wait for any other future action games from the studio, with the Judgment series being in limbo or finished, and the new teaser Project Sentry being in a long development phase. As fun and refreshing as the off-the-wall Pirate Yakuza game is, it's of course not without its faults, which I'll get to soon. However, overall, my biggest praise for the game is that as pure entertainment. While it has a touching and fun storyline, it's not here to win awards for being some kind of well-thought-out masterpiece. It's heartwarming and entertaining, and utterly ridiculous at times, as most Yakuza games are. However, it knows it's a spin-off, side story, and ridiculous, and something to appease Majima fans while filling in some time between major games. It also exists for fans who prefer beat-em-up style games to the JRPG style games of the new era. Plus, it throws in extras for other gaming fans who miss purely fun gaming. No political nonsense, no massive AAA promises, just pure entertainment. The biggest and most obvious gamers who might enjoy the game are those of us, me included, who miss games like Assassin's Creed Black Flag. A legend. Perhaps the last of the great Assassin's Creed games, and certainly the last good pirate game that I can think of. The gameplay is in fact pretty much identical to Black Flag as far as the ocean warfare and ship battle mechanics. However, it takes a fun modern approach by offering upgrades like ice bullets, machine guns, laser cannons, etc. Truly something that only a game like Yakuza could accomplish. The island hopping aspect and treasure hunts all provide great balance to prevent you from getting too bored doing one thing, and just as you start thinking you're spending too much time on sea, you'll often find yourself heading back to Atlantis, a giant sea kingdom Colosseum, or Honolulu, the main site of Infinite Wealth. The game developers themselves admitted that the game ended up being much bigger than they'd planned, and that's likely due to all the Honolulu assets and resources available to the team, thanks to Infinite Wealth. Add to that new and old minigames such as kart racing, etc., and they were sure to have a banger of a game with little work on the development side. People wonder why Yakuza games can cram so much into one game, and that's basically why. The vast number of resources and past games and characters they've amassed to choose from. It's a giant grab bag of fun for the developers to use and add to for future games. Speaking of minigames, most of the games in Pirate Yakuza Hawaii, as usual, are a delight. They made the crazy delivery game more difficult than in Infinite Wealth, sadly at the expense of the humorous stunts. They made the age-old batting cage game much more interesting and fun, and added some classic Sega games to the arcades and game centers and Master System console. As usual, the minigames alone are enough reason to buy this game and can give you countless hours of entertainment. You have at least 20 games in one, if not more. I also appreciated the huge customization available in the game. Not only can you change the appearance of Majima and his ship, but you can modify your Segway with many more options than you had in Infinite Wealth. It's just too bad it's electric, so I needed to add my own Bo Sozoku exhaust sound effects. I totally forgot what my mission was, okay. I gotta make the noises myself. This humming noise doesn't do it. In addition to the massive variety within the game, there were some other things I was very happy to see. For one, I was happy to see the return of cheat items for some of the more difficult minigames, namely the gambling ones. I also appreciated the money balance of the game. Unlike many games in the franchise, especially Yakuza 0 and Infinite Wealth, you aren't showered with seemingly endless money as you progress. In Infinite Wealth, despite its name, most of the money you get is from grinding through the dungeons. Again, as I stated in my review of that game, it's not as satisfying as its predecessor, where you build businesses and earn money in a somewhat more realistic way. In Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii, you'll find yourself strapped for cash, soon finding a new treasure that helps you just cover any new costs. You never feel strapped for cash, nor do you feel like you could purchase everything in the game in one go. Now, speaking of money, I'm going to start addressing some of the cons of the game. One of them is gambling itself. Now, remember how I just said I was happy to see cheat items return and money being balanced? Well, I don't think money is quite so balanced when it comes to gambling minigames. They're either too easy or unnecessary. For example, after exchanging money for gambling chips, I found that I already had enough chips to buy what I wanted from the items exchange, completely voiding the need to gamble at all. You know what's funny is I just bought enough chips to get a crewmate. I just bought enough chips. I didn't even need to play the games. What? It didn't even cost that much. I got my robot with a chainsaw. Plus, I never felt like gambling would vastly change my financial outlook. I didn't think winning in a casino would make a big difference in my overall income, hence I'm only saving it for earning trophies when I go for 100% completion if I decide, and I probably will. Other minigames, while easy or convenient for the developers to add to the game, I felt were unnecessary. For example, I never really understood the friends links from Infinite Wealth. It's like a Japanese view of Americans, where if you say hi to a stranger, we're friends. Though humorous, and it doesn't hinder you in any way, I found it pretty unnecessary and kinda dumb. Dunno, it's just my opinion. Don't crucify me. It's like they decided that they needed something for the characters to do while running around such a massive map. Well, overall, I enjoyed the combat variety of the game for the most part. One style that caught me off guard involved a couple random balancing battles where Majima switches stances to a classic swashbuckler mass battle fighting style or whatever. This style is never explained, nor is it intuitive. Perhaps if I had more time to master it, it'd be fine, but it was mostly luck and timing, and there were only like one or two of these battles in the whole game. It didn't make much sense. Another thing that really missed the mark for me in this game is a side story involving the character Masaru, played by the actor and comedian Ryuji Akiyama. It's a side story involving the hunt for a Minato woman, a culturally important archetype and one that hits close to home. Side note, I lived in the Minato ward of Tokyo before and almost married a girl, making her a Minato woman, but that fell apart. For more on that, watch my story of getting deported from Japan on my main channel, Super Random Japan. Anyway, I like how this game incorporates Japanese culture, but not necessarily how they executed it. I suppose they thought that the side story would be funny, but it mostly took me out of the game. I thought it was dumb, unfunny, and boring. Plus, it introduced a live aspect to the game that was totally out of place with the rest of the game. Now, live-action scenes are nothing new to the Yakuza series, as they've occurred in many games of the franchise to give more of worldwide exposure for actors and actresses and porn stars, etc., but this one especially just seemed like a waste of time. I'm sure some people enjoyed it or even somehow found it funny, but for me, I wish it was left out. I enjoyed the side stories of the sub-characters, i.e. the Minato women themselves, but not the overall side story involving Masaru. That's all for my complaints though. As you can see, they aren't many, and while the game story is much shorter than those of the main games, it may be a pro rather than a con for some people. Instead of endless cutscenes and confusing plot twists that you have to keep track of, this game is straightforward and to the point. Even better is that once the main game is done, you have virtually endless time to spend playing all the side games and sub-stories to your heart's content, or just floating around the ocean being a pirate. I really think this is a refreshing interim game that RGG Studio fans, and the general gaming community need to ease our minds in the presence of depressing hype game releases, missed opportunities involving Japanese-centric games, and just something simple and fun to play while awaiting the next major Yakuza game release. And GTA 6.